Hello and welcome to another video of mine where we learn from my mistakes. In this video I will show you 4 examples to explore when and where to invade. But first we have the solution to last week's bonus problem. In that one I asked you if you want to attack or defend, and if we look at this position we see that white has 2 groups that are not 100% settled yet and black has a 1 at 3. So in this case, actually, the best way to handle it would be to defend. The Tisuchi to do so actually is to attach here, making use of the fact that there's a weakness here and that black can't easily, for example, now push through here, because now all of a sudden these stones get captured. So making use of that weakness and that black can't play too aggressively, then for example, this can be a variation, and then white can take care for the other group. On the other hand, if black, for example, now just plays like this, you just jump in. And the reason why we start on this side is because we also still put some pressure on this group and make use of this cut. But most importantly, this is the area that black can grow most in. But you don't necessarily need to invade. For this first example, it's white to play and decide, do you want to invade the bottom area? And if so, why and where? It might be very tempting to invade here because you're eyeing this weak spot, and after all, this black group is not yet settled, right? But before deciding about this invasion, we have to step back and look at the whole board and actually notice that white has captured all of this already. White has already captured all of this. And black has this group here, which is not settled yet. And white has this group, which, while settled-ish, it's also not 100% alive yet locally. So then the last thing is this bottom side for black is actually not that big. So even if you could split black on the bottom side into weak groups, it's just not necessary here. It, like in the game happened, I tried very hard to make something happen here, and very hard, and all of a sudden black's quite strong here. This group actually is not as weak as it looks, because black later still can attach here, and all of a sudden, after a few more moves, I'm left with 2 weak groups, and black is left with 2 weak groups, sure, but it's a mess, and a mess that I really didn't need to get into. Instead, what you could do in this situation is simply to play this very calm move, which takes territory, pressures this weak group, and in turn makes it very unlikely for black to ever grow something big in this area. For the second example, it's again white to play and decide, do you want to invade? And if so, where do you want to invade? So again, before deciding, we can look at the groups. Right now, white has no weak group, everything is really settled. Black has this and this, which seem a bit weak, but in fact this group is not all that weak. If you try to harass it like this, black doesn't even need to answer, but black could live like this anytime. And if you really try to harass it like this, you're in for a bad time, because if you try to block here, now all of a sudden black can threaten to make life on the top side and simply just capture these stones. So that's not good. And if white tries way too hard here, then what is white really gaining from this attack? Not that much. In the meantime, the right side group, which is what I try to pressure, is actually quite resilient still. It still has an attachment here, or it could still jump out or turn in the corner. So this move doesn't actually pressure it that much, and black got time to play here. So in this case, invading would actually be the right choice. But where? The left side is not really all that interesting because I already have this undercut at c4, and these groups are also relatively strong, so I would only be thinking about destroying a few points here. Instead, black is actually threatening a lot here, a lot more, by the way, than in the last example, which is also a reason you want to invade here. And a really good spot for this would be here. The reason being that, of course, if black just defends here, you can jump out and you destroy this area. And if black now plays the stronger move to play here, then you can play on the third line. And now you kind of made me of making a base on the bottom side. And if black denies that, now you can actually make use of the fact that these stones here are quite weak now. And yes, they can lean here, but in the meantime, you can escape with your invasion group. And it's not easy for black to handle their own weak group while keeping enough in this area. In this third example, it's black to play, and the position is already a little bit more advanced than in the first two examples. So black to decide, do you want to invade the top side now? Yay or nay? In this case, again, it seems kind of tempting to invade, which is probably why I did it. And the reason being, I tried to pressure this group and destroy the top side while being at it. But there's a big problem with this one. Being that white can Atari here, and after exchanging here, now all of a sudden, well, this white group was never really that weak to begin with, and this white group, especially because of two more moves here, was also not that weak. So in effect, invading on the top side really was just about a few points here, and it was much more urgent for me to play here now. And now I have enough points already. I mean, I'm ahead by 10 points here. And if white now just defends here, I can also just go here and destroy this. And if white now goes and defends the bottom side, I still don't need to invade the top side. It's just enough to take here, or even just to reduce from here. And this is more than enough for black. So in this case, it was again not necessary. It was not caring for any weak groups per se, and it was just very urgent to get this move. This last example is kind of a two-parter, and it's black to play and decide, do we want to invade or is it enough not to? In this case, white just played this hyper greedy move here in the center, and although black has two very sizable corners, another corner and some bottom side, it's not quite enough for black to just give white all this. So what can you do exactly here? Well, there's not really a weak group of blacks, so that's not much to worry about. But there's also not really a weak group for white. What you can do here is still, though, to invade very deep. And the reason for this is that you do still have some RG, for example, now against this stone, you have this peep, and all around you just have very weak connections here and a very big area to make space. So if you invade here, the possible continuation could be if white covers, there's actually this kind of double Hane here which you can make use of. And for example, if white now Ataris and connects, you can play here, and now you're kind of making me of making a base here and here. If white peeps, you can play here, and this black group can survive. Or of course, if white now extends here, you can make quite easily a base here. So you have that left side area as an option. If white now tries to close that off, now you can just jump lightly, and you're already eyeing this weak connection here. You're already eyeing this peep. So for example, if white now continues here, you can peep here. You can make some extra shape like this, and it won't be all too hard to make a living group here. So in this case, an invasion would be good. However, what if white wasn't this greedy? What if white had played a move like this? In this case, white can't actually get enough if white just takes the whole left side, and a reduction move like this would now be enough. In these examples, we saw that one big question, of course, is, do I even need to invade? But also that invading has a lot to do about weak groups and weaknesses. So to look, does one of the players actually have a weak group that changes everything, or that means that you could profit elsewhere? And even in the invasions, can you create some weaknesses or weak groups while invading and making use of that to make an invasion easier? Keeping that in mind, there's another bonus problem. It's black to play and decide, do you need to invade? And if so, where? And if not, what else do you do? Thanks for watching. Bye bye.